All right, folks, brace yourselves for the whiplash. On Sunday, an allegedly moderate Republican congresswoman said that her priority is to work bipartisanly with Democrats and get bills signed into law by a Democratic president. Then on Monday, she said on a different network that her priority is to impeach that Democratic president, saying that she had a message for him: "We're coming for you." Now, before we unpack all that, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and the alert bell. Maybe check out my Patreon. I'd appreciate the support. All right, so as you may have guessed during that introduction, we're about to talk about Nancy Mace, the Republican Congresswoman of South Carolina. Now, I pick on Nancy Mace and other allegedly moderate Republicans for precisely that reason. They are not as ideologically driven or as openly, consistently spiteful and deranged like other MAGA cultists like Marjorie Taylor Greene, like Lauren Boebert, like Matt Gaetz, like Ted Cruz, so on and so forth. They affect this air of like reasonableness. They're moderates. They go on CB. They don't just go to the Fox Propaganda Network. They go on CNN. They go on MSNBC. They go on CBS. They go on Real Time with Bill Maher. They say the F word at press events. They're like so cool, right? And they'll criticize their own party. And Nancy Mace she's no different, right? I mean, you can find examples of where she will give interviews or she'll say to the press, like, my party, we are so out of touch on abortion. We're driving away women. We're driving away voters. As a woman, this is incredibly important to me. We can't be so extreme and ridiculous. And yet, when push comes to shove, Nancy Mace, like most other alleged moderates, will actually vote in accordance with the most extreme flank of her party, because whatever impulse she may have to actually be moderate, she is beholden, like most moderates are, to the extreme fringe driving the party. When push comes to shove, she will put partisanship over principle. She will forsake moderation, right? And she will just do whatever Donald Trump wants, right? And so I'm going to play two clips because, and I think it's funny. It's really sad, but it's also funny because like the assumption seems to be baked in. Like Nancy Mace doesn't think that people who watch her on Sunday on one network have the capability or the interest to watch her on a different network on Monday, right? That Sunday on one network, Monday a different network. It's just two different realities, and people won't see these two clips back to back. But brace yourselves. Here we go. This is Nancy Mace on Sunday on CBS's Meet the Press.
Having some of those approaches that can be easy to fix, fast to fix, not controversial, that can pass out of a Republican-controlled House, Democrat-controlled Senate, and get to a Democrat president's desk to be signed into law, that's what we've got to be working on.
So what?
Well, golly gee, that's awfully reasonable, Nancy. Yeah, I completely agree. And she said that sitting right next to progressive Democratic congressman of California, I believe, Ro Khanna. That's really reasonable, right? That the priority needs to be, what can we get done? What is there some consensus on? Let's move quickly. Let's deliver results for the American people, for our constituents, for their constituents, and let's get this stuff signed into law by a Democratic president. Well, that's what she said on Sunday, but time marches on, and Monday is apparently a different day. It's the start of a new era. This is what Nancy Mace had to say on the Fox Propaganda Network 24 hours later.
Well, I have a message for Joe Biden this morning. We're coming for you. And if you will not answer the questions for the American people, the Oversight Committee will answer them for you with regards to the investigation we're going to be conducting. And it's time.
So, in case you're confused, that was, again, alleged moderate Nancy Mace, who said on one day that her priority is to work bipartisanly with the president's party and to get legislation signed into law by that very same president. But then on a deranged right-wing network like the Fox Propaganda Network, she's like, actually, no, listen, the priority is actually to investigate and impeach this man. I have a message for Joe Biden. We're coming for you. And of course, this is pertaining to the long-standing series of investigations into President Biden via his son, Hunter Biden, who, by the way, was, again, never part of the Biden administration, never part of the Obama administration, never held government power in any way, but they are desperate for anything to go after President Biden and to hurt him politically. The bottom line is this. Nancy Mace is a coward. Nancy Mace does not have integrity. Nancy Mace does not stand on principle. Nancy Mace just says whatever she needs to in whatever context that she thinks might be beneficial. And to some extent that's politics, but the point is this. We shouldn't give her credit. We shouldn't give her credit for saying one thing, but then when push comes to shove, doing another. Hey, I want to work bipartisanly across the aisle, but also actually my real priority is to investigate and impeach this president for literally any damn reason we can come up with. These are mutually exclusive. These exist in complete incongruity. And so to the extent that Nancy Mace is ever cited to you as an example of a reasonable, rational moderate Republican, a non-MAGA type. Like, if we just need more people like Nancy Mace. Nancy Mace would just, again, ultimately fold like a lawn chair to anybody who is actually in the extreme driving the party. That's the problem. If the Republican Party were animated by more reasonable, I hate to say the word, but like principled, moderate Republicans who would actually defy the extremism of somebody like Donald Trump, then I'm sure Nancy Mace would start to vote accordingly. Like, if Nancy Mace were surrounded by many other moderates who were actually leading the party, then perhaps Nancy Mace's instincts towards moderate politics or bipartisanship, perhaps she would follow through on that. But when push comes to shove, whatever voice is in her head, like the same voice in Lindsey Graham's head or whoever else it is, saying, hey, let's be moderate, let's be bipartisan, let's work towards actually solving issues for the American people, that voice is drowned out. It's strangled by other voices in her head or in their heads saying, just do what the party leadership wants, just cover your own butt, CYA. So anyway, I'm sure Nancy Mace will give us other examples in the future of how unprincipled and dishonest she is, but this will tide you over for the next week. And then we'll see you next week when she does something else.